in the right man.
Oh God.
Yeah. Can we put that music on until about 60 seconds next week? Yeah, okay then. Thank you. Sorry, just listening to the music. What the radio's on. You been okay then?
Yeah, good. Yeah, a lot of stuff going on.
Busy?
Yeah, just yeah, everything seems to be picking up, and
Good.
getting busy. It's good. Anyway.
Well done. Can you give me 60 seconds on the intro? Then we can kind of like move it into them, please. Thank you. No, just after the last record. Thank you. Don't worry, I'm not talking to myself. Sometimes people think that I am, but I'm not.
Yeah, I got the impression there was someone in your ears or in the room.
In the ears, in my ears. Come on. Here we go. Yes, I know. I've been doing this for a long time now. After the yeah, thank you. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. Right. We're off. Come on. Let's go. Hello, good morning, everybody. 10 o'clock here in the UK. Hope everybody's doing okay. Anybody listening on radio, don't forget, watch out for Sam 60 Jukebox. Now, the trouble is, I don't like Queen very much, records, and I was listening to it just now and I was thinking, why don't you just hurry up? You know what I mean? It was a long record. Anyway, I have got Danny back. Andrew. I've got Danny Matthews back this morning. Hello, Danny. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me back. It feels like brilliant. It was not that long ago, actually.
It seems like last week, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Time's flying.
It is, isn't it? We're getting there. So tell everybody, because we're on radio this morning as well. So tell everybody about yourself. Like last time.
I run a branding and design studio. We're an award-winning studio. I'm based in a little place called South Cerney in Gloucestershire, but we work with people all over the world. And our kind of vision is to help mission-driven businesses to build brands and companies and products that compel people to make a change or do better. So yeah, that's me. That's us.
Good.
I live in Gloucestershire with my wife and two boys.
Good Gloucestershire. Gosh, I love Gloucestershire. I live in Devon, and that's I love Devon, but Gloucestershire is gorgeous place to go live. Anyway, so um, what kind of branding do you do? Tell us about the branding side of things.
So a lot of I think I might mention last time a lot of what people assume is branding is confusing because it's so broad. So the word branding or brand is so broad. So people that print logos on mugs, they'll probably call that branding. You'll get some virtual assistants or graphic designers that create social media templates, and they would call that branding. And then you get coaches and consultants where when they start talking about things like vision and mission and values and those kinds of things and their business plan, they call that branding as well. So no wonder it gets confusing. We define branding, or we have defined branding in our own way, and we call it brand confidence, which is simultaneously the problem that we solve and the solution that we provide. And we break branding down into 4 different areas. So strategy, messaging, behaviors, and then identity. And what usually happens in business is we focus on the identity, which is the last part, because your logo, for example, or colors or fonts is usually the first thing that your customer sees, which is why there's so much pressure put on it. But actually, it should be the last thing that you focus on because you need all of that stuff before it, the messaging, behaviors, and strategy, to be able to build a brand or design a brand that attracts the right people and grows your business. So we focus on that specifically, taking people through that process for whatever problem they're trying to solve.
And also, do you do like websites, and do you do kind of like it's so you help people on social media to kind of like to really tighten up their probably Facebook, Instagram. Do you do things like that so it can make them much better, much approachable?
Yeah, so we've done some content production in the past. So anything to do with social media that's video based or image based, to design posts that actually get people to click or to move them to do something. We do less of it now, but on the website front, what I found over the years is that most websites don't really work. They have no specific purpose. They don't generate leads or sales for people. So rather than be web designers, we are a design-led. We do design-led websites, and they follow a very, very specific strategical flow and pattern. We use a method called the Storybrand Method, which is a guy called Donald Miller in the US wrote a book called Building a Story Brand. And it's essentially a framework to get people to buy more from you through compelling copy and great design and flow through your website. So,
Right.
although,
Okay. So Danny, I my book has just come out. I've got a book, and I'm trying to sell my book at the moment.
yeah,
So for an author like myself or anybody else, what would you suggest for a good content for that then?
so I'll tell you what, let's do it. So there are 7 elements to a high converting website, and they follow a method that's been used in Hollywood for years, decades and decades, and it's called Storybrand. Now, what we usually do as businesses and as business owners and brands is we immediately try and tell someone why they should work with us. And what that does is it turns the story towards us as if we're the hero of the story. But if you think of any movie that you've watched, let's take, I'll take this as an example because it's one that I know very well. Something like The Hobbit, for example, or Lord of the Rings. When you take that story and you look at the main characters, the Hobbit or Bilbo Baggins is the hero of the story. But the person that we spend a lot of time focusing on through the story is actually Gandalf. But he only acts as the guide to the hero.
Right.
So what the Storybrand method does is it forces us to look at the client or the customer as the hero and the main person in this story. So the 7 parts of a high converting website or a story brand are a hero that wants something. So there's a character wants something. You know, for example, for you, in this case, it would be who would you say is so if someone wanted your book, what do they want? What are they looking for? So actually, why don't you tell me about the book first?
Well, my book is about kind of like, it's about my life, about my kind of like growing up, the time when I got abused, up to a part of my weight loss journey, part of my weight. It's about, it's just about my personal life. It's about my life, and and that's it.
What would you like people to do when they read your book?
Well, I just want them to kind of like read it, then kind of like, uh, because for some people it's kind of like, it could kind of like, what can I say? It can relate to them. You know what I mean?
So what kind of action do you want them to take once they've read it?
Well, I want them not to do the things that I've done in the past. I want them to kind of like change their lives if they can, and I want them to seek help about obesity or about other things. And I just kind of like want them to kind of like enjoy their life. I want them to be more what they can, really.
So so the Storybrand method, the first step is a character wants something. In this case, they want to learn from your mistakes. So as soon as they hit your website, the first message they see should be learn from my mistakes. And you can give some expansion in a paragraph underneath it with a button. But the next thing is a problem. So a character is the first step, wants something. The second step is has a problem. Now, what's fascinating about problems is I can tell you that I can solve your problem, and you won't understand it until I've told you it 2, 3, or 4 times. So within this section, we're trying to look for an external problem, an internal problem, a villain. So that's like almost like a personified problem, and a philosophical problem. Now, we probably haven't got time to go through all of this, but that's the next step. So you want to tell people what the problem is. Now, this sounds a little bit underhand, a little bit weird, and not very nice. But essentially, what you're trying to do is rub salt in the wound. You're trying to make them realize that surface problem that they have goes deeper and makes them feel a certain way. But there's light at the end of the tunnel, which brings me on to step 3, which is, so you've got a character wants something, they have a problem, and the third step is they meet a guide. So they meet you as their guide to guide them to whatever success they want. And the first thing you need to do is show a bit of empathy, connect with them by saying a phrase or statement like, I know how hard it can be to X, for example. And then you need to show them authority. Why should they actually listen to you? Why should they read your book? And in your case, it's because you've been through it all.
Yeah.
You've learnt the lessons, and you're reaping the rewards, or you're still feeling the pain, whatever it might be. But at least there's a light at the end of the tunnel for you as well. Yeah. Step 4 is that you give them a process. So in your case, for a book, it would be very simple. It would be buy the book, read the book, share your feedback or share your story. And essentially that could allow people to then feed back into things like this, like a podcast or a radio show or a YouTube show, whatever it might be. Yeah. So that's step 4. Step 5 is the guide gives them a process and then calls them to action. So in every film, there'll be a point where the guide meets the hero and says, this is what you need to do in order to make that change, or get that girl, or save the princess, whatever it might be. And they give them a call to action. So for you, it will be buy the book. For other people, it might be to schedule a call. For other people, it might be to start a project, whatever it might be. So that's the next step. Once you've called them to action, then you basically need to give them 2 parts. You need to give them the success. So what successes they will reach as part of working with you or reading the book. And you need to give them what to avoid, the failures to avoid. And finally, the transformation. So what transformation will they have as going through that process or reading the book. If you do those 7 steps in your messaging, on your website, through your brand, whatever it may be, I promise you that you will convert 3 to 4 times any other website that's just a brochure website or just a standard website. I'll guarantee it. It's worked over and over for me and our clients, and it's slowly becoming a bigger part of the business because it's so needed, because websites are just broken these days. They have no real purpose, and this gives them a real purpose and a reason for people to take action on it.
Brilliant. Well done. Well done. So I might take you up on that offer, actually. So when you kind of like doing all your branding and everything else, what is your success rate? So if anybody's listening now and you're giving them all the help, so what the success rate, and how much do you charge people if they want anything done?
So I'm very fortunate that when I always wanted to do this when I was, even as a kid. If I think back to school, I remember the days where people used to say, "What do you want to do when you're older?" And everyone used to kind of shrug their shoulders. And I was the one kid that shut my hand up and said, "I want to be a designer." Now it took me about 15 years to actually pluck up the courage to take this on as a career, just purely through the fact that I went to an all boys sports college, and creative industries wasn't really a thing that you do as a job, so I just didn't do it. So I spent 10 years in a completely different industry. But now I get to do it, and I chose to do it, and most importantly, I fought to do this. I'm in a really fortunate position that I only work with people who I believe I can make a real difference with. So that's a long way to go about saying our success rate is 100%, because we just don't work with everyone. And I think that's important for people to kind of take note of. Our messaging is positioned to attract certain people. We attract those people, and then we choose to work with them, and we get success. If you want a bit of an example of that, so one of the first clients we took on, a bit of a success story, is a young guy called Ben, who was a personal trainer. He had 4 personal trainers that kind of worked under his brand or umbrella, called Ben's Body Fitness, in Reading. And one day he said, "Danny, I've got this idea. It's a single person gym. So one person can use the whole gym for an hour, and they book it through an app. And I'm going to call it Solo 60. And I said, "Great." He said, "How much is a logo?" I said, "Well, what's the problem?" And he said, "I don't understand. There's no problem. I just need a logo for the business." And I said, "Look, if I design you a logo and you don't know what problem you're solving, it's just as well you not designing one at all. So you need to tell me what the problem is." And digging into the conversation, he said, "Basically, I'm going to need a lot of money to launch this new business, because we're going to need premises, we're going to need to kit it out, we're going to need an app built and designed." And I said, "Great, that gives us a problem to solve." So we built the brand from scratch. We built an app prototype, and he went and got investment at £1 million valuation. He didn't even have a customer yet. So he couldn't even go to investors and say, "I've got 100 people waiting at the door to use the gym." He didn't have anyone. And yet someone was confident enough in his business and his brand to invest money in it. Now, that was 2 years ago, and he's just raised money again for I think the 3rd time, and he's worth about 6.5 million in 2 years. Now, if that's not a success story about how branding and brand confidence can move you forward as a business, I don't know what is. So, as I say, a long way of going about it, but the success rate is 100%. But we're really fortunate that we choose our clients. And in terms of pricing, it's been quite a journey, actually, from a pricing point of view. From my personal perspective, just getting used to like what people are willing to pay, what different clients are willing to pay. I remember when I first started out as a freelance designer, I used to charge 300 quid for a logo. And now branding as kind of a process and a package, the brand confidence program, we usually start at about $3,000, which includes everything. Solo 60, I think, was about 12 to 15. But I have a branding program that you can go through that's 150 quid a month. And that was created actually because the other stuff was not very accessible for smaller businesses. And, these are the people that I love and that I work with every day. So it was a way for me to open up that process and that branding program to smaller businesses. So the program's 1,800 quid, but you can pay £150 a month over 12 months, and that makes it a bit more accessible to people.
Great. Because people's listening now, which they are, they're probably thinking, well, okay, that'd be good. I can kind of like, contact you, because some people, because it's coming up to Christmas now, people can't kind of like afford £3,000 or whatever in one go. So that's a good idea. And what's it like? Because through the COVID and everything, did you struggle through the COVID, or everything was all right?
That's an interesting question. We really thrived in certain ways. So even when I tell you that we grew our workforce by 10 times, for example, that sounds great, but it doesn't mean that it was all perfect and plain sailing. So I took advantage of the Kickstart scheme and hired 8 people as part of that scheme. That was a great process to go through, incredible experience. Most of them got full-time permanent jobs at the end of it, which was the point of it in the beginning. I got a lot of exposure through the BBC and on the radio and that kind of thing because of that process and what I did. And I'm doing a lot of talks and things around building culture and managing young people as employees and that kind of thing. Doing a lot of talks in schools and universities and getting involved with guest lecturing and all those kinds of things. So in certain ways, we really thrived. We built this platform for, public speaking and all kinds of stuff. Business-wise was great, with the exception of about 2 or 3 months, which was diabolical. God knows why.
Dodgy, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. And there was no real explanation for it, apart from the fact that it was earlier in the year, like June, July, when the lockdown extension was announced, and that just kind of killed off people's confidence and killed off people's enthusiasm and motivation. And that had a bit of an effect on us. But apart from that, I'd like to say we sailed through it, but we didn't. It was a bit intact, most importantly, and even more so that we managed to invest in new products like the branding program that we have, and doing a lot of things online and a lot of things that don't take me a lot of time but keep revenue coming into the business. So that was really important. So it was just a big fat learning experience, and for the most part it was really positive, but it wasn't without its bad days, let's say.
How many people do you have working for you now?
None. It's just me and my wife. I have 4 people that are contracted to do certain things, whether it's HR, IT, accounts, that kind of thing. So the operation is mostly outsourced, but it's just me and my wife now, after my Kickstarter's left.
And tell people, because they're probably thinking, what is Kickstart? Because I know what it is, but can you tell people?
Yeah, so as part of the coronavirus, the pandemic employment support scheme from the government, they launched something called the Kickstart Scheme. And what happened was when the pandemic hit, basically most companies got rid of the young people first. And simultaneously, there were school and university leavers that were then looking for work. And what employers did was they kept the skilled, valuable people on and got rid of the less skilled. And other businesses kept the unskilled and had to get rid of the higher paid, if you like, for budgeting reasons. So there was a real kind of mismatch in employment, and there was a lot of young people out of work. So the Kickstart scheme was created by the government to help young people, so under 25s, at the risk of long-term unemployment, get some skills and get into work. So
And were they paid? Were they paid?
Exactly. So the government paid minimum wage for up to 25 hours a week, I think it was, for 6 months, which meant that you could employ someone paid by the government, including national insurance and employers' national insurance, and they would fund it for 6 months at minimum wage. Now, if you were going to employ them for 40 hours, you would pay the difference, but you were just going to take them for the 25, then it's fully funded. So it was a great opportunity for employers to take people on and get some help and give young people some really good experience. And the only criteria really for it was that you, as part of the process, you gave them employability skills. So CV writing techniques, interview techniques. I took it to the next level, and I actually went out and started finding jobs for them and getting, introducing them to getting them jobs. So I went a little bit further, but so a lot of them found, their, I want to say, dream job, but the job that they actually wanted to do. A lot of them didn't have to just go and take any old job. They, the social media manager I had went and got a social media job. The designer I had went and got a design job. And so on and so on. So yeah, it was a really successful process, but it was going to be closed, I think, at the end of October, and they've extended it until next year. So if anyone wants to the opportunity to hire a young person or young people, go and do it. Like, you've got nothing to lose, and you'll have help to grow the business, essentially. Now, you have to be mindful that, it's going to take a bit of time to train them and all kinds of stuff. But if you're committed to that, what an amazing opportunity it is for employers and for young people. So yeah, give it a Google and give it a go, I would say.
Yeah, it's kind of like getting them out and do some work in it, because when they leave school and everything, some people, are thinking what they're going to do and everything. I remember when I was younger, I wanted to be a professional footballer. But that never happened to me. It nearly did, but never. But I came close to it. But I took up running instead, and that was a bit of a problem too. But what I'm trying to say with anything with youngsters these days, as soon as they leave school, the first thing they're going to think about is either college, university, or what they're going to do. And there's a lot of they go for holidays during the holidays. Some holidays they look for part-time jobs like working in hotels or cafes and stuff. But these youngsters, what they want something stable for a long time, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, most of the young people that I had, when they were leaving, and I was asking them what they wanted, they just said, "I want something permanent, stable. I want something." It was a great feeling knowing that, because I had employed them, they had, built the confidence and had the income to go and, move out of their parents' place and get their own place with a friend or whatever. But then they had to maintain that. And I think we forget that when we're younger, that whatever we do, whatever we buy, whatever we invest in, it has to be maintained. So yeah, they had a desire to get a permanent job. That's what they wanted. And luckily that's what most of them got. But
I remember when I left school, Danny, I remember going on the YTS scheme. They had a YTS scheme, £27.30 a week.
Yeah.
I was thinking, do you remember that?
Yeah.
Do you remember that? 27. What can you do with? I used to give my mum £10 a week.
Yeah.
Right? I only had about 17 quid left. What am I going to do with that?
I can't remember what it was that I got, but as part of college or whatever, you used to get I don't know, 70 quid every 2 weeks or whatever it was. Yeah, it's just bizarre. What can you even do with that?
What can you do with £27? You know what I mean? A long time ago you couldn't you? But now, you're thinking, bloody hell, that's like one person's meal, say, isn't it? Really,
exactly.
Yeah. About 4 pints, that's 4 pints of lager, that's gone.
Oh, I mean, yeah, you that's, you know, a meal for me and my wife at the pub or whatever.
Yeah, I know it's crazy. Anyway, Danny, thank you very much for joining me once again. I love talking to you, and I'll probably take you up and have a word with you later about something. But I want to get my book out there.
Yeah,
Thank you,
absolutely.
Carl.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I've started doing author websites actually for a couple of publishers, so it makes sense to have a conversation.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you. That was Danny. That was Danny Matthews. And Danny, how do they contact you?
Just go to the website, dannyand.co, or you can email me. It's just hello@dannyand.co.
There you go, guys. Thank you very much, Danny. Thank you.
Thanks, mate. Take care.
Bye bye.